Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday, January 19th, 2021, first ever totally virtual Board of Selectmen's meeting. It's the first time we as a board are doing this, so those of you out there, bear with us. We pretty much think we've got a lot of the bugs out of the system, and we've been talking about it for the last 20 minutes, but we do have a problem going forward. Please bear with us. And we're going to give it a go. I'm going to try to manage this, but we also have Christina, who's the co-host. So if we run into a little bit of trouble, we got Christina. We also have Cable Access to help us out too. So having said that, we're going to start as normal with citizens input. I do believe no one has inputted or mentioned that they're going to do anything with citizens input. Is that correct, Christina?
I'm sorry. No public input.
Okay, great. I think I saw our town manager, Bill Keegan. There you are, Bill.
So
We'll go
thank you,
to
Mr. Chairman.
COVID update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And did you want to do the Pledge of Allegiance, by the way? Did you want to do that?
I thought of that. What do you guys all think? I think we certainly still can. Although when I stand, I'm going to be out of the Zoom.
Okay.
All
right.
You want to still do it virtually?
I think it's a good thing, but it's up to you.
Let's do it. But I think you're going to see everybody's stomach. But yeah, let's do it. I'll lead it.
All right, that's fine. You want to stand, or you can just do it in front of your screen. You can do it with your screen, or you can stand up. All right, that's fine. All right.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, I guess that worked.
Great.
All right, okay. Bill. COVID update.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman, and hello, everyone, and it's good to be back. I would say it was officially my first day back from COVID leave, and happy to report that everybody is doing fine. My wife is fine, and I'm doing fine, and happy to say that it's good to be back to work and back at the helm. So unfortunately, as I look at the COVID numbers, though, coming back today, the numbers are extraordinarily high. They're around 240 cases in Foxborough currently, which I think is the highest number I've seen. We are currently at 7.29% of a percentage of positivity rate, which is a concern, of course. But the good news is that we don't have any hospitalizations, and we still have only one death to report since the beginning of the process. We've had a total of 812 cases in Foxborough overall, and that equates to probably about let me see, about 5% of the total population has been affected in Foxborough in one way or the other. So that's a pretty high number overall. But currently, we have 240 cases that are active. I did on another COVID-related issue. I did go up to Gillette Stadium to inspect the vaccination facility that is currently in place, and I did see that they currently had about 500 people being vaccinated today. That were, and that number is roughly about. I'd say about 10% of the amount that they actually are seeking to get done, which they're looking to get about 5,000 cases per day once they really get up and running. So right now it's about 500 people, and it was primarily healthcare workers being vaccinated, and it's by appointment only. So you can't, and you will be confirmed before you're able to go up there. So it's not an open door where anybody can go up there right now and just get themselves vaccinated. It will be done in a very procedural, orderly way, and the numbers will be ramped up as soon as they have the capacity to do that. Right now, they only have a limited number of staff members, but they are trying to work out all the kinks, and so I think they will actually ramp it up. Probably in the next few weeks, you'll start to see those numbers start to increase. But pleased to see that they did have it pretty well set up there today, and and a couple of our local firefighters were there present as well as backup, just in case they ran into any problems on the site. So that's my report for now, Mr. Chairman. We are, and I do appreciate the fact that everybody here is meeting virtually at this point. I think it's a smart decision to go in this direction right now, given the circumstances, and that for the health and welfare of everybody involved, I think now's the time for us to be in that kind of situation and mode. So, so I'm grateful for everybody's cooperation in working with us on that to try and get there. So that's it, Mr. Chairman. I'll turn it back to you.
All right, thank you, Bill. And on the COVID thing, while we're under COVID, yeah, it was mine, Bill, and Mike John's decision a few days ago with the increase in COVID cases and the spike to go virtual for the time being until we start seeing a significant decrease, and then hopefully we'll get back into town hall. The other thing that I just found out about, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, I believe there is a website set up, COVID Vax at Gillette Stadium, vaccine at Gillette Stadium, where people can go online and fill out a form. And depending on the checklist, you'll either be put in a category that you're not available to take the vaccine yet, or put into a category where you can and schedule yourself an appointment. And a lot of that has to do with age, comorbidities, and once you check off those boxes, you're over 75, you've got heart disease and diabetes, you'll be put into a category to make an appointment and fill out the rest of the forms. Just to throw that out to the community. Okay. Anybody else have any questions on the COVID update?
No.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, hey, I had one. Bill, a few weeks back when Mike Kelleher was in, the plan was for him and his staff to start vaccinations with area first responders. And it seems like that's been absorbed by Gillette. Does he have any plan, or does the town have any plan to do anything with the fire department and its residents as far as setting up vaccinations, or is it all through Gillette now?
It's all through Gillette for now, and if they're able to do anything more beyond that, then they certainly will let us know. But that's not in the plans as of right now, because it is actually there was a ability for the firefighters and police officers to get vaccinated a little bit earlier, based on the regional availability of vaccines, but that time has already transpired, and so now it's open to anybody in the primarily to the healthcare workers at this point. Most of the fire and police folks have already been vaccinated at this point.
So what happened with all of the vaccines that Foxborough had? Didn't Mike say he had them already? He
had them, but they distributed it it was a regional group that they had. So it was it included Easton, Norton, Mansfield, Foxborough, I think Plainville, and maybe just a couple other communities were involved in that. And they distributed that to all the people that were in that group for the fire and police only. It was only for public safety at that point. And that's been distributed.
All right. So he was able to do what he said he wanted to do, the regional. Okay. All right.
Yeah. I don't think they're not going to do anything beyond that, what they've already done already. So it's already been done.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, Bill, was SEMREC included in that?
SEMREC was included in that. They was originally, they were not on the list, and then we actually spoke to the state, and they actually moved them up to the first responder list. So they were vaccinated as well.
Okay.
So okay.
All right. I got to turn around to see a clock. We're a little early, but is Acolitos, did I say that correctly? Ready to speak a little bit about the Common Vic and 7-day entertainment license?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi there.
You must be Margaret.
Yes, I am. Hi, how are you?
Okay, tell us, so Margaret, are you the owner or the manager of the new restaurant?
I am the owner.
Okay. Could you tell us a little bit about the restaurant, when you plan on opening? Obviously, I think Mexican style.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about it and about yourself.
So my name is Margaret Pimentel. I live here in Hyde Park, Massachusetts. And we currently own here in Jamaica Plain one location where we serve fresh Mexican food. So we're bringing that over to Patriot Place. And our goal is to serve fresh quality food there at Patriot Place. And our hours are Monday through Sunday, basically 11 to 8 p.m.
Okay, and is there a eat-in availability or is it mostly takeout?
Patrons can sit and eat, and they can take home and order online.
Any questions, from the board? I did see pretty complete packet.
I don't have any questions unless you guys have any questions for me.
Okay.
Do you anticipate serving alcohol at the restaurant when you're fully open?
No, it's part of our contract. There's no alcohol on premise.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Steph?
So I just wanted to make sure, the package we got says Friday and Saturday nights, they're gonna be open till 9.
Yes, that's the
Okay.
only days we open till 9 p.m.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else?
We've heard great things so far, Margaret, just around town about the food. So welcome to town and best of luck and congratulations.
Thank you. And I must say, I was talking about this with my daughter. People are very friendly here at Foxborough. So I'm very happy to be here.
Got to admit, we love having a small town entrepreneur coming into any part of Foxborough and certainly including Gillette and jumping in with both feet. Hopefully you'll do quite well. I know personally I'll be up there within the next couple of days.
Thank you. We look forward to seeing you.
All right.
We appreciate the cultural addition.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Steph?
I just want to say that we actually ordered on Saturday, and
Good.
it was fabulous.
Oh,
It
thank
was-
you. I appreciate
We,
it.
we are going to be regular customers. It was great.
No, seriously,
My
Steph.
daughter did it online, went in and picked it up, and it was really, really good. We wish you much success.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, Steph, if there's no other questions, I'll have you go ahead and read the proposal.
Motion.
Hold on one second, let me just throw these on, throw the spectacles on. Okay, motion to approve the 2021 Common Vic and 7-day entertainment license for, you're gonna have to help me with the pronunciation. So, Taquerias?
Yes.
Okay, DBA at El Chiltitos Taqueria.
Achilitos Taqueria.
Achalitos, there we go, Taqueria. Sorry for the butchering.
Second,
All right. All those in favor?
Chris, aye.
Stephanie, aye.
Mark, yes. Ed, did you say yes?
Yes, I did, sir.
Leah, yes.
Okay, great. There's our roll call. Congratulations, Margaret. Good luck. We'll all see you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, you're welcome. Bye-bye. All right, I think I did see Paige and Chris at one point. Are you guys still on? There's Chris. And there's Paige. All righty, welcome, guys. So this is about DPW and planning the common pedestrian and traffic improvements. So I guess, Chris, maybe you're up first?
I think I've got the lead.
Okay.
All right, so we're back here before you tonight to continue our efforts to improve the traffic and pedestrian safety around the common. Paige and Lance is on as well. We've kind of gone through an interesting exercise over the last 6 to 8 weeks. Paige had seen a grant opportunity through the Shared Streets program for the state and, you know, we were thinking about how to utilize that funding if we were able to get any. So with the idea that we might be able to get some pedestrian signals, you know, the crosswalk signals similar to what's over by the library. Paige sat in on a webinar and actually got put in touch with a company called Kittleson, who's an engineering and architecture firm who kind of has some pretty good expertise in roundabouts and rotaries. So once we got in touch with them, we kind of just wanted the basics. What's the program about? What's the state actually funding through this grant opportunity? And they got very interested in the Foxborough Rotary and the traffic patterns around the common, and wanted to see what we were thinking, what we were looking at. So what was a shot at, you know, a little bit of money turned into actually some concepts from this engineering firm, Kittleson, that you know, we've sent over to you and you may have in front of you tonight. You know, where these are concepts, you know, we know we've been tasked with continuing the effort on traffic and continuing the effort on improving the pedestrian safety around the common. While we realize, and we had initial reactions to the concepts that you've seen that are drastic, as we continued to look at them and talk to the engineering firm and the engineers that came up with them, you know, we really saw them as being pretty innovative. So, you know, we got to that point where we needed more input. You know, we wanted to bring this forward to the board, not necessarily for these concepts to be approved tonight. We're not looking for approval on anything tonight, really just looking for kind of what our next steps are. You know, is it to focus on the pedestrian safety? Is it the traffic? You know, where the board would like us to see this go next. With that said, we did sit down with police and fire earlier today to go through these concepts. You know, they had probably similar reactions to our first impression as well, that they were drastic. Some of these things you would see in cities, more urban areas, you know, kind of are shocking when you get out to a suburban setting, you know, similar to Foxborough. So, you know, with that, you know, we're hoping for some guidance, some initial feedback on what you may have seen. You know, if you think there are ideas there that look great, if there's stuff that, you know, there's no way 5 months from now after a trial will work, and kind of the input of the board as far as where we go next. So I think we're happy to kind of walk through them if we want to walk through them, or we can just have the conversation as to what might work and what might not. And from there, Paige, if you have anything you want to add to that before we start.
Chris, that's great. Thanks. I think the only thing I'd add is after looking at some of these plans, and I suppose we either should go over them or maybe not, just because we might freak people out if they think we're going over. But I think the questions that started to come up to us is like, one of the things we've heard is we need to get a sidewalk around the common. You know, right now it's cut off by the parking areas. So that's a priority for numerous people in town, but it might not be a priority for everybody. That would help guide us towards a certain direction. And I think the balance of what we sort of realized today talking to the police department is, you know, we have about 14 to 15,000 vehicles per day traveling through that rotary. It is clearly a road traveled. The hard part is it's also the heart of this town, and it's where the community wants to gather. So in order to balance the desire for more pedestrian safety up there, there are going to have to be some concessions for traffic. And I think that's where we're looking for a little bit of guidance on these. These took us all kind of aback, but if you break them down one by one, some of the logic makes sense. And I think if we had some guidance from you on what's important to you as road commissioners, that would help us sort of help you as we continue on this journey to figure out the best way to work towards pedestrian and, of course, traffic safety.
I don't know about the rest of the board, but I think I would be okay with maybe just a thumbnail go through some of this, you know, just to give us an idea of, you know, like you said, we're not really necessarily going to make any decisions tonight, but one of the, you know, I got all that packet of information, but things that we should zero in on, when we're thinking about this over the next couple of weeks. What does the board think? You guys okay with maybe just running through it real quick?
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Do you have it with a PowerPoint, Chris, where you can go through a couple of things with us?
I do. I have it up in the PDF format. I don't know if that works, if I'm able to share my screen. Let's see.
Oh, here we go.
How do we do?
I got something.
Yeah.
This is, believe it or not, this is the first time I've actually presented on a Zoom call and shared my screen. So.
Hey, Chris, this is the first time I've been on a Selectmen Zoom call.
So I think the first thing to talk about really is, you know, what the concepts behind a shared street and shared spaces really is. And it kind of comes from the Complete Streets program that the state has, where you're not only accommodating the vehicles that are traveling down the road, but you're accommodating the pedestrians that are using the sidewalks, the bicyclists that are running or riding their bikes, you know, on the street, and trying to accommodate and use that roadway and the sidewalk to accommodate all those uses. So one of the things we were looking at as we walked through this was, you know, some of the goals that, you know, Kittleson had come up with in talking to Paige, Lance, and myself. You know, is it to create that continuous pedestrian facility around the common? We know we want to improve the pedestrian safety. You know, we're looking to encourage bicyclists to visit uptown as a mode of transportation to get there. So we were looking at, you know, going through School Street, South Street, Cocasset Street, the three approaches that we have left, and where we can actually meet those goals. And when you look at shared streets, it's really different than where we are now. So if you look at Cocasset Street, which is the piece from Mechanic up to Bird Street, you know, in front of O'Reilly's on that side of the common, you know, right now we have 28 feet of angled parking, which you pull in and back out. You have two 11-foot travel lanes. You have a small buffer, and then you have a sidewalk on the storefront side. You know, when you get to shared space and shared streets, you know, you have a much larger sidewalk on the interior. So they actually, you know, when looking at this, we were looking at a 13-foot sidewalk along the common on the outside of the fence, 22 feet for angled parking, which actually flips the cars around, and now you're backing into those spaces. And this actually reduced down, looking at the threshold for single lanes on a rotary, you know, actually dropped it down to a 1 lane for the vehicles on that approach on Cocasset Street. Then gives a 3-foot buffer, a bike lane, and then maintaining the 7-foot sidewalk on the storefront side. So that piece itself is drastic, but that's kind of the goal of, you know, the shared space. It's really making it more friendly and safe for the pedestrians. And that's some of the things that we're looking at. You know, if we look at South Street, similar things where we could maintain the parallel parking on both sides of the street, 1 lane of traffic, a bike lane in front of the sidewalk on the storefront, and a wider sidewalk on the storefront side. Or the alternative, if we wanted to do the angled parking, back in angled parking, you could do that and just do parking on one side. So those are the concepts when you look at the shared streets initiative that's kind of come out over the last year. So with that, you know, this is, you know, an aerial photo that shows that Cocasset Street piece. And so as you come off of Mechanic Street down here to the bottom left, you know, you would take a right, you would merge with any traffic either coming off of Cocasset or coming around from South Street. You would have a single travel lane, 11 feet wide. You would have a buffer from the parking. You would have the ability to then pull outside of that travel lane and back into those parking spaces. And what the backing in does is it improves the safety when you're actually leaving those parking spaces and merging into traffic again. So instead of backing out, you know, as we do now, you're backing into that buffer space, and sometimes you get a little too far out and you're in that travel lane, and then you're still trying to merge. So this is, it's a reduction in the travel lane. The other improvement here is, this crosswalk on the corner mechanic going over to the common gets reduced down. You have a very large bump out here where you would increase the concrete curbed area on the common side. So now your crosswalk goes from what's probably 40 feet wide down to 15 or 20 feet. And that reduction in that width, helps improve the pedestrian safety where they're not exposed to that traffic for a longer period of time. We realize that there are some concerns with this where now you have, a lane on the common merging with a lane from Cocastle Street plus Mechanic Street, all merging into the one lane. So we do understand that there are, like I said, originally, this is drastically different than where we are now. But that's what the concept that Kittleson has come up with for that Cocasset Street side. What that does is it gives us that sidewalk on the outside of the common along the fence line with a buffer to those parking spaces. And the other concept that we have that we don't have anywhere in town right now is the bike lane. It's a concept that we got to start somewhere. We realize that we don't have anywhere else in town, and to that point, it's kind of a width issue. A bike lane, you really need 5 feet plus a buffer, and we just don't have that width on most of the roads in town. But this would introduce a bike lane onto the common and into Foxborough.
Mr. Chairman and Chris, just with respect to what you showed there, Chris, on with the angle parking against the common. One thing I mentioned to Chris was that I've seen done in some places that they'll sometimes will take the sidewalk and move it inside the fence, so that way you'll be able to maintain the parking area as is, or you could change it to angle it so you have to back into it. But at least you can maintain those spaces, and then you wouldn't take away from any of the travel lane outside on the travel area itself. So so essentially the fence would be inside the sidewalk would be inside the fence, and then connect the various sidewalks that are already in place, and then you could go back outside if you wanted to in the other area. But that way, at least you'd have a safe sidewalk in that area without stealing any of the parking space that's already been established. Any thoughts on that, Chris?
Yeah, I think in talking, and this came up with public safety, GA, police and fire. Yep, we could certainly at the ends of these parking areas cut a hole in that fence, leave a section out, put a sidewalk, on the inside of that fence. I think the concern that we've heard that with this pull-in parking the way it is, you either walk in front of the vehicles and you're on, somewhat of a curb or a little bit of a lip there until you get down to this end, or you're walking behind those cars, which is, I think, the safety concern as people are trying to back out there. Even potentially, you get a car full of kids that get a little too excited and they go, the wrong way towards the traffic instead of, hugging the fence line.
I don't disagree. I think that maintaining the angle so that you back into them is probably the safer approach, but you would have to change the lanes and how they're striped,
right?
Obviously, to do that, so you could at least continue to back in, but at least you wouldn't lose the space.
Yeah, and that's and the 5 foot buffer plus an 8 foot sidewalk, is certainly, I think, more than anybody ever envisioned there. Certainly in talking to Gordon Green over the years about this project, and this was certainly one of his projects. I had envisioned a 5 foot sidewalk, maybe a small buffer from the parking spaces, kind of as the maximum there. This certainly takes it to a different level than, I had ever imagined it. But I think even just the back end parking is different than, anybody in Foxborough had ever envisioned for that space there.
I got a question for you, Chris. What did public safety say about one lane around that rotary, especially where you mentioned 3 lanes coming into one?
You know, I don't think I can repeat what they actually said.
Okay.
No, it's shocking to see that. You know, from their point, the back end parking is going to be a difficult change for people to take. You know, it's in their opinion, the pull in is easier. You know, you're able to, especially if you're unfamiliar with the common and you're just trying to find a spot to get off of the rotary, you can pull into a spot pretty easily, set your bearings and figure out where you're going to go. Whereas if you have to back in, you're potentially backing in against traffic, which again, you know, nobody's, you know, really going much more than 20 miles an hour around there, but you know, backing in against traffic is certainly can be a difficult and daunting thing. You know, they were definitely concerned with going down to one lane. And I think the big concern is, you know, when we look at the numbers, and that was one of the things, I think the last thing, you know, in this other PDF that we have, we, you know, show the numbers, and Kittleson used the numbers that we have from March of 19. And we're under the threshold, but we did not get to the point of looking at, you know, projecting that out, you know, 15, 20, 30 years as part of a true traffic study would.
Any other questions from the board?
So you're saying that the most recent traffic study in terms of traffic flows was 2019, Chris?
Yes.
I mean, not necessarily studied, but have you seen a reduced flow around the common due to COVID? Or an increase because people are at home and they're going out to do errands?
So what we got from the chief was they're seeing more traffic utilize the rotary. And I think what triggered that was the change up at the Main Street end. You know, that reduction of a backup on Main Street has allowed more vehicles to enter the common freely and safely. And people aren't avoiding it as they used to. I think that was his opinion that we got from him today, is that they're actually seeing it. Maybe the numbers are probably down due to COVID,
Okay.
but in general, they're seeing more vehicles on that rotary than they have in the past.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else?
Doc, can you see me?
Oh, no, I didn't, but now I do. Go ahead, Steph.
Yeah, Chris, the backing up, I am a person who backs into spaces. When I was learning how to drive, my dad said, back in now, take your time, back in, and it's always, you know, safer when you're leaving. I would love to, you know, not my expertise, but I'm guessing, would you go to an area that is using this back end parking to see it? I really feel like it, you know, one thing, if you have a 3 or 4 spaces open, and I'm a good backer upper, but I just kind of feel like that people are going to be taking weird angles, and I think the front of their car is going to cut out. The rest of it, you know, is very interesting. You know, obviously, like you said, the to back up. And I think if you do have people that aren't real familiar with the area, I think I just can't see that working myself, but I would love to see a place, you know, go somewhere. Maybe they could tell you some places that use the backup, and maybe we could just, you know, stand there for 15 minutes and watch people coming and going and really see how it works. But the rest of it, yeah, it's different, but I mean, that's what you're looking to do. You're looking to make improvements. So of course, I mean, look how much pushback you guys got from you know, putting you know, the lane going, you know, straight down Main Street. Everybody, they were fighting it, hate it. Nobody likes change, But it did what you set out to do. It solved the traffic problem. So I'd love to know if we could, maybe this company could tell us somewhere that uses the back end, and I'd love to see it.
And, that was the comment that you made about, people taking weird angles to get into those spaces. That was something, and the police department, they watch vehicles a lot more than I do. That's their job, is to be out watching people. Their first thought is people are going to try to take a front end, a left turn, and try to get into that space, head in, just because that's what they're used to. And it's, if it's, these changes are done in phases, if they're done, as they're done, it's all public education. And that was what we had to do with the one approach, the Main Street side, that we did do, the signage ahead, letting people know what the changes are. But that was a comment that we heard from the police department as well, that it's until people get used to it, they're going to do funny things to try to get into those spaces.
Yeah.
Doc, one comment, one question, Chris, along those same lines with our people that go around the common the wrong way. That was my first reaction to is, if you see the parking spots going that way, your mind thinks traffic flows that way. So just kind of a comment. And then my second question is just, as Steph mentioned, we've made some great progress with what PAR Corporation did. Is one hand talking to the other? So is this new consultant talking to PAR to not undo or do anything that would go against what they're trying to, longer term implement? Yeah.
So with PAR, we did have our phase 2 in concept with them. It was, I think when we were looking with them, it was to, really solve one problem down the South Street end. And if I scroll down to this one, with PAR, we were looking at how do we keep people from this inside lane, going down to Central Street. That was kind of the other maneuver that we've heard a lot of complaints about and safety issues with. So Kittleson came in pretty clean. They really didn't have an idea. We talked to them about what our thoughts were, what we had been through. But no, they have not touched base with PAR. We haven't really brought them in. We did show them what the phase 2 concepts were. But they took it to a whole new level, looking at a true change for pedestrian safety as well as, the vehicles. So
Curious if this change would almost cause the same backup on Central Street. Now, just to get, I'm not saying it would, but just to get their opinion, that we don't, that we make sure that both groups kind of talk and agree that one's not going to undo the other.
Yeah. And I think as I said initially, we just kind of somewhat stumbled into this, where, we were, the grant that we're able to utilize and we're using right now, had 3 or 4 engineering firms selected, that dealt with these types of situations kind of in a specialty format. And that's, one of the things that Paige is always great at looking at is what are the grant opportunities, because that's, to bring PAR back in, it's going to cost the town money that isn't available out of this grant. So not that I rule out sending this stuff to them. That certainly is an option that we have. But I think really we're just looking at the concepts and, kind of for the next steps, I'm happy to walk through, this South Street approach as well as the School Street side. But I think looking at those options, it's really what are our next steps? What should we be focusing on? Are there concepts here that the board likes and would like us to see move to the next level? Is kind of where we sit right now, and we're looking for guidance.
I think, just to continue, I think I feel like the common's really wide already. To me, this almost makes it wider. So I think, I'm most concerned with pedestrian safety. But my first gut, without having any data, is taking a lane away for more, bike lane, pedestrian zone, sidewalk, I don't know that that's enough of a win for me personally.
Chris, were you about to say something?
Yeah, I'll be blunt. I saw this the other day and I was like, you people are out of your absolute mind. A lot of questions. I don't know if going to one lane on part of this is the right thing at all to do. Things are flowing really good now, traffic wise. One question, looking at this stuff, Chris, the School Street side, that is completely still 2 lanes, correct?
Yes, on the School Street side, we left that as 2 lanes. And they
So,
were
I don't see a bicycle path.
right. And that was in order to maintain the parking and the 2 lanes. The concept for the bike lane comes through the past Main Street. And actually the idea, the concept would be that it exits down Rock Hill. So that if anybody was trying to get to South Street, they could then use Market Street or you go down to Union Street and come across that way. And let me see if I have that on this slide.
And then essentially be going the wrong way with traffic that we just
Which,
talked about.
right. And that was, I'm not sure if Kittleson, if we had expressed that at this phase, that Rock Hill is a one-way towards the street, towards the common. But this green arrow was the bike lane that they had kind of marked out. So you would be able to come off of South Street, enter the bike lane, travel around past Cocassin and Mechanic, exit at any point, and then bringing it back around to Rock Hill and terminate it at Rock Hill Street.
Now on the side where O'Reilly's Auto Part is, the bike lane is on the outside. The extra sidewalk is close to the common, correct?
Yes.
The one on South Street, it appears like the extra sidewalk is in front of all the businesses.
So on the South Street side, they had shown 2 options. One would be to keep the parallel parking on both sides, add a bike lane, and expand that pedestrian sidewalk. So looking at the sidewalk on the common side, it's pretty wide as is. So instead of extending that out, it was to give that the storefront side a little extra sidewalk width out there. And again, some of these, the shared street program, really started with how do they get restaurants to have outdoor seating?
Yeah, exactly. And that makes sense on South Street to do that. What happens over where O'Reilly's is if that corner building ever sells and turns into a restaurant and they don't have the extra space on the sidewalk? Same thing on the, where they're going to be redeveloping the fire department, what happens there? So
yeah,
I think this, to be honest, this is going to be a real hard thing to, you guys all know everything that happened with trying to do the temporary patch up at the common, which actually worked, but that was challenging.
Chris, we expected at least somebody to have that opinion and make that.
And you mentioned you see this more in the city. This past weekend, my wife and I went into Cambridge, and I had just finished looking at the whole plan. We got out of the car in Cambridge, and I said, "Oh, it's going to be Foxborough." It looks identical. Where we park in Cambridge looks identical to what we're proposing here.
Sure.
Steph?
Yeah, I see some good things I like here. I'm not quite sure, and I could be wrong. Where Chris is just saying, I drive in the city a lot too. We're into Tufts a lot, and so I see the bike lanes. The bike riders in the city are. I'm just not sure if we need that here, and to change, maybe going to one lane in certain parts. I don't know. I don't see that many people, riding bikes. When you have like the Rodman Ride for Kids and, and things like that. I could be wrong, and I'm sure there's somebody, there's going to be some type of study, or they'll bring stats forward. Even the kids, young children are one thing, but even nowadays, these kids, they get as soon as they have their license, they have a car available to them. And so I'm questioning the need for the bike lanes, and I'm sure you guys are going to look into that, whether it's truly a need or not. I'd hate to see us go through all this and the bike lanes don't really get used, and we've changed down to one lane somewhere. The parking, I think, is great, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to, with the fire station project, and we're trying to build up the common a little bit. So any additional parking we can get, I think, is wonderful. But I question the bike lane a little bit. Just my opinion.
Paige, would you mind telling us a little bit more about the grant itself too, though? How you found it, what it's used for, stuff
Sure.
like that.
Sure. So this is the Mass Department of Transportation, and they've been spending quite a bit of money. Originally, for the past 2 programs they've offered, it's been very much focused more so on temporary spaces, like activating, winter outdoor dining, or, earlier where you could have like in Norwood when they closed off the street, that they helped fund a lot of that. With this program, they were offering more permanent. It's kind of under the guise of COVID recovery, help activate, areas like uptown, with the bottom line of trying to draw folks outside and trying to give more space for folks to do it for the immediate. But now they're realizing they don't want to invest all this money in the short term and not have it pay off in the long term. So really, Lance, Chris, and I got involved in this looking, like he might have mentioned, for those flashing signals. We just, that's what we thought we wanted to do. We're learning by doing this. We don't know what we're going to get through this, because like Chris said, we got paired up with this consultant who's offering these free design services to help guide us towards this program. Now, we knew none of this, as we were talking about it, we were like, oh boy. And we kind of knew we weren't coming in here to propose any of this tonight, but we did think we should use some of this as a kicking off point. For example, if you all felt like Gordon Green about that sidewalk, then we'd be like, okay, no matter what, we got to get that sidewalk around the common. If that's less of a priority, then that can help guide us. So I think that's where we're at. We're still going to try for the signals. We're going to try for what we have, but I'll be honest, we might not be able to pull together. The state might be heading us in a certain direction, and I know Foxborough loves that. So we might not be able to be eligible if, based on what we end up with, but we've gotten some free technical assistance. We certainly would work with PAR to take this to the next level, because this grant only covers so much. They take you to a certain level, and then you got to kind of go get funding for design. So we're just kind of using it as a kickoff, and we're going to try to get as much as we can out of it.
Right. Thank you, Paige. And Chris, back to you one more quick second. As Chris Mitchell, Selectman Mitchell said, you go to Cambridge, you go to downtown Boston, Washington Street. Has this company done a rotary like this before, or did they take a look at Foxborough and say, wow, we've never seen anything like that. This is going to be our Rembrandt. Let's go all out. So I guess my part 2 of that would be, is there another town with a rotary? And I don't think there's any town with a rotary similar to ours, but something where they've done something similar that we could look at?
I would have to get that information. I don't have that. I know they have, expertise in the roundabouts. But you're right. This is certainly unique. So I would have to dig into their background and find out, where else they've done, this type of work with a rotary with, 7 approaches to it and 14 sidewalk crosswalks, and that looks like this.
2 lanes.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I could just say a couple things here. First of all, I want to certainly thank Chris and Lance and Paige for pulling this forward, because I think you're right. It started a dialogue, which is something that really is important here. But, you know, as I'm sitting here looking at this, I mean, the three of them are looking at this through the eyes of a planner, which I think is really important to consider here. Because, but here's another planning thought here, is the fact that, you know, a lot of colleges and universities do this with their campuses, that they won't define an area, or they won't build sidewalks until after people define which way they actually travel along certain ways. So a lot of times you'll see campuses will build sidewalks, you know, like a couple of years after they find where the people travel in certain areas. Now, right now, we're sort of in that sort of that phase a little bit, because we don't know what the downtown's actually going to look like in the end, when we're going to be done with all our renovations and improvements, to the point where, but the other downside of that is that if you wait too long, then when it's really successful, you're going to create a problem where it's tough to build those sidewalks when you've already got people and they're occupying that space. So the question is going to be, you know, we're going to have to take a little bit of a, you know, I think an educated guess here, and also with a little bit of faith from the public and input from them to see, okay, what do you think is best for us to work with here? Because we're sort of at a good point to really do this planning, and you hate to lose that window of opportunity if we wait too long. So it's just a thought, and I think it's more of a strategic discussion and thinking that has to go on here. But I think it's really important to have the conversation and to really just not sit on this one too long, because I think before you know it, we're going to have several new businesses in the downtown, and it's going to be harder for us to actually make infrastructure improvements once they're in place. So just a thought.
Okay, well, I think moving forward, you guys, maybe, you know, let's sit on it for a couple of weeks, have you guys take a look at it. Maybe if you have questions, you know, forward them to Chris, Page, Lance. What do you think? Maybe come back, would 2 weeks be too soon? Maybe a month? And just readdress it again after we've had a chance, now that you've made the presentation? What's everybody's thoughts on that? Yep, Ed?
I really think probably a month would be a better time frame, you know, so that we have a chance to look at it more in depth ourselves. And
Okay. So let's do that. You guys, there's no time crunch on this per se. Oh, Paige is shaking her head a little bit.
Well, there are funding rounds, but honestly, I think we should take the time and do it right. You know, I don't think we're going to rush anything through, and I don't think that's our purpose tonight. So I think we will continue to explore opportunities for what we're trying to do, which is fund some flashing lights. Although I don't know that we can put up, you know, whatever the number is, 7 or 13 flashing lights, because then you'd just be blinded as you drive through the whole common, you'd see nothing. So there does need to Bill's point, there does need to be a strategic approach to this, you know, and some of these crosswalks are, like Chris said, 30 feet wide in very bad areas that are the only areas they can live in, because you don't put them in the middle. I learned today a very valuable lesson as we were duking it out over where to intersect. You know, everybody wants crosswalks like in front of the old post office, you know, but apparently from a traffic engineering perspective, no traffic engineer is going to stamp that because it's too dangerous. So there are some concessions we might need to make our pedestrians safer, but I don't think we're there yet now. I think it's just more understanding what we're looking at, you know, down at South Street and South Street, Central Street, you know, that's a tough place to cross, you know, and where do you take an island of refuge? You're not going to really have one. All of those mouths are very wide. So it is really dangerous as we start to see, you know, Shoveltown go into place and, you know, some apartments be built and the kids are back at the booth and, you know, there's electricity up at the common and the farmers market's booming and there's just things starting to go. We are going to see more people and we are going to hear more conflicts. And one of the reasons we've been focusing on is we have heard from the residents that pedestrian safety is of utmost concern. So I guess I'll just end with that we all need to put our thinking caps on, because some concessions might need to be made to keep our folks safe. Otherwise, we're just going to have to kind of say it's not really that safe up there and don't let your kids go up there, that type of thing.
Well, would it be maybe good if maybe a couple of members of the board form a little subcommittee and meet with you guys so they could actually get in and hash this out with you? Would that be beneficial?
Whatever you guys recommend for getting things done. I mean, Chris, what are your thoughts on where we go? I mean,
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think, we, from our perspective, planning and engineering wise, we just need that next step. So if there's, two members that are willing to give us that direction and the board's good with that process, then I think that would definitely helpful for us to move forward.
What do you guys think?
Be helpful to bring in the Foxborough Common Business Collaborative as well, because the businesses and those stakeholders up their page may have some thoughts. So they might be a good group to engage.
And you're already on that, Leah. Would it be wise for them to make the presentation to the Downtown Collaborative?
oh, I'm scared.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like I'm on a lot of subcommittees right now, so I wasn't raising my hand.
What I meant is, with you being on that committee, having Lance Page and Chris make the presentation to the committee, would that be a wise decision?
Well, is it really ready for prime time at this point? I think you're probably at a point where you've had the conversation and you'd like to have a couple more thoughts and ideas. What they've given us basically was a back of the napkin approach at this point. And I think you really want to get what you really want to do. I think creating the subcommittee is a good idea, because obviously this is going to be a decision that you have to make. And I think having board members be involved in it from the beginning of it is a better thing than being at the end of it. So having your participation is helpful because it gives insight to the staff and also to the designers who come in from another place that don't really have the full perspective of the thinking that goes on in Foxborough, how residents want to see their downtown common look.
Yeah, I don't want to necessarily appoint anybody, but Ed, I think you'd be a wonderful appointment.
I was going to just move forward and be willing to participate with Paige and Chris. I think it's a worthwhile endeavor.
Yeah, I think you'd have a great insight into the public safety side of things. And Steph, you're on mute, but there we go. Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I was gonna say, I know Leah just said that she's, she's got a lot of subcommittees going on right now. If nobody else, wants to step up, I'd be willing to be part of it. And it's funny. In my mind, I was thinking from the safety point, Ed would be a great person to be on it as well. So I don't know. I mean, if you're looking for two, Doc, I'd be willing. If somebody else
would be outstanding. Yes. Okay. If you guys are okay with that, maybe I'll
I second that motion.
You're a third on the list, Chris. All right, great. Sounds like a little bit of a plan. Okay, sound good?
Sure. I look forward to it.
Awesome. So maybe you guys will meet, come back in a month.
That sounds good.
With your thoughts? Sure. All right, great. Thank you.
So just a reminder, Mr. Chairman, that because it's two members, that's a subcommittee, so they're going to have to take minutes and do stuff. They got to formalize. It's a formal committee, so you're going to have to follow the open meeting laws just to be worried, be clear on that point.
Okay.
Okay.
And Bill, call a meeting to order.
Yes, call the meeting to order.
Yep.
And set an agenda, the whole bit, and then have a place to meet. And I mean, obviously, you can still do it by visual if you want. I mean, by audio visual. You don't have to do it or virtual rather. You can still do it that way.
And you certainly know better than me, but I thought it was 3 or more.
Well, it's been debate about that, and I think to be safe, you'd want to have a committee that's to do it right away.
All right, and well, Steph's our clerk anyway, so be perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, great. Thank you. Great presentation, guys. A lot of good food for thought. Have a good night. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you very much.
Paige, I think you're up again, right?
I am.
You're up again. Thanks, Lance.
Bye,
Don't
guys.
talk so much next time.
Hey, Doc, I don't want to barge back in. Can I say one thing while Chris is still there? Did we lose him? Is he gone?
I'm still here.
So Chris, just something I just wanted to pass on. I got an email from a resident on, South Grove, questioning, speed there, maybe possible sidewalks, kind of with the COVID. Just while I had you here, I'm not trying to put you on the spot or anything, but is this something that maybe I could just forward an email to you, just so you're aware of?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay,
yeah, just
perfect.
forward it over. Yep,
Okay, all right,
Yep.
thank you.
you're welcome.
All right, thank you. All right, next up on the agenda is page discussion and possible vote to approve the use of up to $2,500 in the EDC funds for 21E assessment of 17 Centennial Street. So Paige, you're up again.
Thank you. So as you recall, last town meeting, we approved a land swap, and the land swap was for 15 to 17 Market Street, which is currently owned by the Foxborough Housing Authority / the state, kind of quasi own, they own it together. And then the town had 17 Centennial. Town meeting voted to allow the property to swap. And I've been going through the checklist of how to get that swap in place. One of the things on the state, so the state works with the housing authority. So in order for them to accept 17 Centennial, they have some standard requirements. One of which is a clear title, which we've been able to show through the title attorney. The next is a clear 21E, which is basically to ensure that there's not like a buried oil tank in there or any contamination issues. Basically, the state just wants to make sure they don't take anything that in that condition. I learned that we don't, it's not customary to do that, for if you're taking a property as we did. So we don't have that in place. But in order to make sure we get this land swap going, we feel it's important to get it done as soon as possible so that we can execute the transfer. The reason why this is important and how it ties into economic development is the 15 to 17 Market Street. So that is currently housing authority, but it will become town property once this transfer occurs. Once it's town property, we have the developer of the fire station project, as part of the mitigation for his project, is required to demolish the old structure at 15 to 17 Market that the neighbors have been looking at for a long time. Demolish that and then build a 14 parking space lot there for the public. It will not be for Shoveltown. It will not be for the apartments. It will be a town of Foxborough owned public parking lot. So that's why the economic development aspect ties in, because we are going to be getting a public parking lot for the uptown, and it's tied to the EDC sponsored fire station project. It's all kind of contingent. So it's very important we get this done and we keep this project moving. So we felt that this was a good use of those funds. The funds, while they are labeled EDC, they are labeled EDC, they are collected through liquor license fees. And I believe, and the Board of Selectmen actually has the full control of this fund. And, the EDC comes to you periodically for some funding associated with economic development, but it is in fact your fund.
Great. Any questions from the board?
One question, the $2,500, that just covers the cost to have the assessment done, right?
Correct.
It doesn't include anything if they happen to find said oil tank or anything.
That is true. My hunch is if they find an oil tank, the town will be keeping the property. But I don't know that for sure, but that would be a whole host of issues I hope we don't come up with.
Okay.
But we don't have reason to believe that, facilities oversaw the demolition of the property. They took care of the septic tank. So we have every reason to believe it will get a clear 21E. It's really just a checklist for the state before they'll accept a property.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that the $2,500 was just to have
just the study.
assessment done. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
So earlier today, Paige and I have emailed, and Doc, I know you were copied, but just want to start out by saying I am fully in support of both projects. I just find it, to be frank, a little bit of a reach to use the economic development funds to do the 21E for the plot in the residential area. And I know that they need it for the land swap, but I have to think, wouldn't the state require a 21E just like you would, I'm kind of putting on my real estate hat, you have to have that for certain funding, when you go forward in the project. So I think while I support this, I just don't know that the funding resource is correct. Like, I think this $2,500 cost should be part and parcel to either or both projects, not economic development. I mean, we're sitting here talking about how we can't, figure out a way to pay for the flash and cross, things right before this. There's a number of things I can think of that we could do with economic development funds. Like, I had a restaurant reach out to me, asking about waiving fees and, on and on. But I get it. I get where it goes with economic development. I just don't know that I agree that it should come out of this fee from liquor licenses to do this swap and get a 21E on 17 Centennial, which is down the road. Because I think they would need it. Even if they're going to do their housing project on 21 Market, I believe they would need the 21E before they started that for financing.
Well, I'm not sure what you mean, Leah, about the fact that they would need it for funding or financing. It would still be a cost to someone, correct?
Right. So, I could see if they had already done a 21E on 21 Market Street and now we were swapping and the piece they had didn't have it, but I just don't understand why this isn't part of one or both of the project costs, why we're reaching into this particular bucket for the money.
Where else would you say just part of the money that we get for selling the property? Is that
Yeah, I would think it would just be part of project costs or, wherever it comes from. I just don't know. It's not very often we use this money and, we just used it for the Shop Local campaign. So again, I fully support this going forward. I just don't know that this is the right bucket for it to come from. And I would think that even if the Housing Authority were building this on Market Street, they would have to bear the cost of this before they got to the finish line to start the project anyway. So,
I mean, one thing I think that Paige is looking to do is trying to make sure we don't get hung up on the SAG of doing the transfer and moving forward on the demolition of the property on the parking lot. I think what could be done conceivably to address your concern, Leah, is maybe front the money from that fund and then put it back after the property sold.
that would make me feel better. And I think back to, and I haven't gone back and watched anything, but when we did this land swap, the whole sell was this is at no cost to the town, a land swap. Now here we are coming back with a cost that's coming out of, a certain fund that I understand where we're connecting the dots for economic development. I just feel like it's a little bit of a reach.
So once we get the funding for the fire station, that could be a charge back against that line, I assume. We could use that as it would be a total project cost line, the total cost. Would that be acceptable to you? To do something like that?
Yeah, that would be acceptable to me because that's where I think that the money should come from is part of the cost of either or both projects.
Okay.
Steph?
Yeah. Also, so I popped in, I was up at town hall for a couple of things today and I ran into Paige and so I was going to call her, email her. And then so we ran into each other. So I was able to ask her a couple of questions. I am completely support the project fully as well. The only thing was when I did go back and look, that's exactly how that article was worded at town meeting. It said that for that parking lot, it said no cost to the town. So kind of piggying back what Leah's saying. I mean, I would be for exactly what Bill was saying, if it's just so we could get it going and then somehow it gets back there. I just want to make sure that we're following, the people voted on it at town meeting and that article says no cost to the town. So, I don't know if, if we could get it back, I'd be fine with it as well. But I just think we need to follow what, how it was voted on at town meeting also.
Yeah, I think that's a great compromise. Not even a compromise. I think it's a great way to get this swap going in the early phases, and then make a note to pay it back out of the funds. Absolutely. Would that change our motion? We would need an addendum to the motion to make sure it got paid back. So we need to add, wouldn't you think, add to the motion and funds to be replaced on the sale of the property?
Yeah, that can be
Part
done.
of the motion, would that be satisfactory to everybody?
I think
Yeah, I
the
think-
mechanics
I
of
don't
it
think we
may
wanna
take a
delay-
little bit, I think the mechanics of it might take a little bit more than that, but because I think, because I don't know that we can, I think you'd have to maybe find a way to transfer it. That's something I have to talk over with, but it's clear what the intent is. And I think we can figure that out. I just a matter of what is the right mechanical step to take there. So, because I don't know if we have to just, appropriate it later on and just put it back into that. So just.
Would
put
it
it
have
back
to be
into-
part of the motion?
Yeah, so I would say with the intent that the money be returned following the sale of the property, of the fire station property, as part of the proceeds would be returned to the Economic Development Fund.
All right, did you get that, Steph?
Yeah, because I mean, obviously, there's already been delays in this project, and I don't think
Right.
we wanted to delay any more.
Right.
I think if we all think that's a fair compromise, or, that we know it's gonna go back, I think we go
Mhm.
forward with it.
Okay.
Okay, let me peek at it real quick to make sure, okay. All right, I think I'm ready to roll.
Go ahead.
Okay, motion to approve the use of up to $2,500 of economic development funds for the 21E assessment of 17 Centennial Street, with the provision that the monies will be returned to that fund once the sale of the property is final.
I got a second from Chris. All those in favor?
Under discussion too,
Oh.
just quick. I think we talked real quick. I do think we just need to clean this up, though. There's nothing really in writing about this, so I had suggested that maybe we bring this forward, on a future meeting, just to get something in writing about this fund, the use, all that.
Just going forward in
Yeah.
general. Okay,
Yeah, I think it's a good suggestion by Leah that the board should have a policy in place as to how that money is appropriated. It's perceived as it's used for economic development purposes, but it's really the board's decision ultimately. But I think it's always nice to have those things in a policy somewhere.
okay. Roll call,
Chris, yes.
Stephanie, yes?
Yes.
Mark, yes.
Leah, yes.
All right, great, thank you. Thank you, Paige.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, Paige.
All right, and every time we have a meeting, we have a department head update. Today's update is going to be with our Veteran Services organizer, Ally Rodriguez. I think I saw Ally pop in there. There she is again. There you go, Ally. You're up for a little discussion of what's happening with your department.
Okay, shamefully, I have not seen what my colleagues have done, so I'm just going to give you a 2020 year in review. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just share my screen here. Share screen. This is what I want. Share. Can you guys see this?
Yep, we got
Yes.
it.
Yeah,
Okay, let me see if I can make it present mode. All right. Foxborough Veteran Services 2020 year in review. Here we go. So I am the department head, United States Army veteran. I am your veteran service officer. And this year we hired, 2020, we hired Carrie McKenzie. Lisa Plant left us to follow her dream to be a firefighter. So she's at the Firefighter Academy right now. And we hired Carrie, who was the certifying official for veterans at BSU. She's still on probation, but I think I'm going to keep her. She's fantastic. If the public has not met her yet, please do stop in and say hello. She's just so great. And I can't say enough good things about her. She's wonderful. The objectives of the Veteran Service Department: we educate veterans on federal, state, and local benefits. We hand out Chapter 115. We do a little bit of case management. I have groups together for veterans just, to come and hang out at the Council on Aging the first and third Monday of every month. We do a little bit of ride share, liaise with nonprofit organizations, educational people, just a little bit of everything. Basically, I should just say takes care of veterans, because that's essentially what I do in this department. Here's just some of, the nitty gritty. We do take care of war memorials, veterans' graves. We do provide grave markers. I assist with home loan guidance for VA home loans. I am in charge of the patriotic ceremonies. I do keep up with the memorial squares. Veterans coming back from service, I help fill out their welcome home bonus, which starts at $500. And if you have an overseas deployment, that's $1,000, and then an extra $250 for every 6 months. So if you spend a lot of time overseas, you can come home and essentially get like $3,000 for being in service. So if you are a wartime veteran and you have not received your welcome home bonus, please do stop in, because I have some money waiting for you. So how COVID-19 changed my office. I said a lot that I'm in the business of people, and I ain't got no people. We had to do everything by mail, by phone call, by email, and it was very difficult, especially with the population that I serve. They are elderly, and technology is just not their forte. So it was a lot of back and forth. Generally, what would take me 2 days to file a VA claim was taking me 2 weeks, because we were going back and forth, and the forms are not exactly easy to fill out. So it was a lot of patience on both ends, and everybody did great. And I really appreciate the veterans that I got to serve during this time for their patience, because it was a trying time for all of us. Now that Town Hall is open, I am disinfecting after every appointment. I am still working mostly on appointment bases. We do get some walk-ins, and they don their masks. We stay 6 feet apart. So that's changed, because normally people just come in, they hang out, they want to chit chat, and there's no chit chatting anymore. It's, come in, do what you need to do, and get out, and let me clean and sanitize for the next person. I did have the American Heritage Museum field trip lined up, but unfortunately COVID happened and that was canceled. I'm hoping, if all goes well this year, we can get that trip back on the books. Also, we did see an increase in Chapter 115 recipients, a lot of layoffs. A lot of veterans did apply. Unfortunately, we only had 4 new cases because it is income-based. A lot of the applications were not accepted. So, in addition to my office, I also have the VSAC, the Veteran Services Advisory Committee, and they consist of these members that you see on screen, and they are a sounding board. They also help me plan Memorial Day and Veterans Day. They make me aware of veterans in the community who are in need but don't want to, come forward for whatever reason. So they are my eyes and ears out in the public, and they're just fantastic, and they help so much, and I definitely could not do this job without them. This is a rundown of the VA claims that I've done in 2020. I had 60 service-connected disability claims, 7 out-of-state claims, 17 VA burial claims, 10 VA education claims, 12 welcome home bonus, and 6 annuity applications. And these are completed. These are not the ones that have come in, hey, I want to file for service-connected disability, and I give them the paperwork, let them know how it's done, and didn't come back. So these are just completed. Chapter 115 is a needs-based program. Everybody's familiar. You get 75% reimbursement paid to the town. 2020. Foxborough paid out $173,658.45. 75% of that will come back. And we did see 4 new recipients in 2020. We currently have 34 active recipients. Again, this is not the people who applied and denied. These are just the people who were accepted into the program. Here's 2020 in review. Over 750 phone inquiries, 34 new 115 clients. 15 virtual events. Memorial Day had to go virtual, Veterans Day had to go virtual, and it was different. It's not what I wanted. It's not the Memorial Day, the Veterans Day that we wanted, but it was the events that, you know, had to happen. There's the amount $173,000 for Chapter 115 awarded. And then I also donated a bunch of American flags, winter coats in partnership with Coats for Vets and the Foxborough Police Department. And then groceries, food for vets, the Salvation Army. It was a lot of giving this year. If that was one word to sum up 2020, it was a lot of giving, a lot of volunteering. Some highlights that I did this year, the Coats for Vets program, the craft group Memorial Day flagging was, I think it was 2,500 flags that we put on there. I delivered 80 boxes of food with the Food for Vets program and the Salvation Army on 2 different occasions. Plus, I was working the farmers market at Gillette. And somehow I became the face of Food for Vets. Like, you Google Food for Vets and you see me directing traffic, and I'm, you know, all over the place, and people were calling me, and it's like, it's not my program. Like, I'm just helping. And that was fantastic. And thank goodness for the craft group and Mass Military Association, because they're fantastic. Let's see, World War II Memorial Corner dedication. That was probably the highlight of 2020. What else we got? There it is. There was a fantastic day, and the rain held off just enough to get the ceremony in and out. It was fantastic. I'm so glad that I was able to do this. Huge thank you to Phil Keegan for allowing me to do this. This is fantastic. Let's see, what else did we do? Legislative Luncheon, that was in January. Ask Your Veterans Agent radio show, which is a radio show that the Raynham VSO does. And she's like, hey, why don't you come on, talk about what you're doing in Foxborough? Okay, I did. Pulse for Good podcast. Pulse for Good, this was interesting. They are a client satisfaction tracking company, and they found me on LinkedIn, and they said, hey, we've been following what you're doing. Why don't you come do our podcast? And I'm like, okay, where are you guys at? Well, they're out of Utah. So the power of social media, because he found me on LinkedIn and says, you're doing good stuff. And I'm like, that's kind of creepy, but okay, I'll come on your podcast. Sure. And then this is Mr. Ralph Bennett. Everybody knows him. I got to meet him this year. He owns the largest private collection of Vietnam memorabilia. And the first time I went to go meet him, I walked in, and any veteran out there knows what I'm talking about. It's the smell of the field. And I was just, it was amazing. I was going around and I was just smelling his equipment, which was kind of odd, but it just brought me back to my days in the military. So that's that, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I've been doing in 2020. Any questions? How do I stop share? There we go.
Yeah. Questions and concerns, or congratulations? Are we in order?
Toot toot.
Yeah.
Doc, I think you're talking on mute.
Okay. All right, I'm on mute. Just a comment. Allie, you're great. You're wonderful. Okay. Every time I get a chance to speak with you, I love your passion for your job. And every time you come before us with something, I've run into you at town hall a couple of times. You know, we're very lucky to have you, and the veterans are very lucky to have you. So just a comment. So
I appreciate that very much. Thank you. That means a lot to me. Thank you.
You are welcome.
Doc,
Mark, you're on mute.
You gotta mute yourself there, Doc. Okay, there you go.
There we go. You know, I'm going to piggyback with what Steph said. You know, what a wonderful job you've been doing. And, you know, we've been very lucky in this community to have, you know, leadership roles filled with young, dynamic people, you know, in the cutting edge of their careers. And you're far from, you know, you're no exception. I mean, with what you do, it just never ceases to amaze me, between the parking spot up in Town Hall and, you know, the World War II Memorial, that little corner thing. It's just, you know, you're a ball of energy that just keeps going.
Well, I do appreciate that. I do want to mention one quick thing. I don't know if, sorry, I'm so short, so I have to stand up. So this is from the consulate general of the Korean consulate, gave us all the VSOs who had a hand in handing out the Korean peace medal. So I came in and I got this and I'm like, so it came wrapped up and it says 2XL. And I'm like, my goodness, he could have Googled me. Like, I'm not a 2XL. And then I put it on and I'm like, oh, it fits. Never mind. So thanks. But that was pretty cool. All the VSOs got a thank you from the consulate general from Korea. So anyway, that was pretty cool.
Very cool. Any other comments? No, great presentation, Ally. Keep it up. You're doing a great job. And I also like seeing you in the halls of Town Hall. It's you're always a big uplifting influence.
Well, I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Toot toot.
All right. Have a good night.
Good night. Thank you.
All right. Assistant Town Manager's update. There's Mike. Oh, had him. There he is. Hey, Mike.
How are you? How are you, Mr. Chairman?
We're doing well. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. So just a couple of things to report on this evening. So we have a couple of jobs that are posted. They have been posted for several weeks and we're still working on those. No new ones to report on. But we're working on several contracts. So for annual town meeting, we have three union contracts that will be expiring at the end of this June, and those are the Steelworkers Union, the DPW, which is the AFSCME union, and the police union. So I'm in dialogue with all three of those unions, and we're hoping to bring contracts to the annual town meeting for that, as well as two contracts that will be in the special within the annual town meeting that the Board of Selectmen has already seen, and those will come before the Board of Selectmen, and those are for one-year contracts that were back to July 1st of last year, and those were for the police department and the Steelworkers Union. So that's all I have to report on this evening, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any questions for Mike? Okay, Bill, Town Manager's update.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize, but I just been waiting for some information to come in on the budget, which I've been waiting for, and looks like based upon the number that I had, that one of the numbers came in a little bit lower than I thought it was going to come in. So that's good news for us in that respect. So we still haven't received our pension assessment, and that number just literally, at least it's an unofficial number, looks like come in a little bit better than what we had estimated. So that's a good thing for us. So just a couple things to report on tonight. Obviously, it's my first day back, and so I've been playing catch up all day. One of the things that's really put us a little bit behind is, of course, the budget process. And now, so I spent the day finishing up the budget and getting it ready and doing a transmittal letter. And so you will all see the budget as of tomorrow. So normally I would have had tonight as would have been an opportunity for us to go over the budget and to go through it and to give you an opportunity for feedback to see where we're at. And then on the other hand, but obviously I wasn't ready because I had not finished going through everything with everybody until this morning and this afternoon. So we spent a good part of the day working on that piece of it. So I think what I'd like to do now is to talk with you about how you like to review the budget, because knowing that tonight would have been the budget night, the AdCom wants to start seeing its books as well, and they want to start their process. So I really don't want to hold them up. But by the same token, I want to afford you the opportunity to look at it and give feedback to it. And then we can talk about, if you have any changes or recommendations to that as well. So you have a couple options here. One would be that if you could think about meeting next week for a special meeting to just do the budget. Again, we would do it virtually, et cetera, just to get it done. Or we could hold off and do it in 2 weeks, knowing as long as everybody understands that the AdCom will probably start its process before then. But they won't probably take up any budgets that will come under your review anyways. At that point, it will be stuff like maybe the water and sewer, stuff like that they can look at anyways. So it's just a thought. So I'd like to get your feedback on that point. That's issue number one. Generally speaking, I'm pleased with where the budget is coming in at this point. It didn't come exactly where I thought it would be, but the costs that are pushing it over the goal that we were looking for, about 2.5%, are in the fixed cost areas, which we have very little control over. So we've actually, but everybody else did a pretty good job of actually coming in. There was one area in public safety in the fire department where this was the first year that we actually are responsible now, fully responsible for firefighters that we got on a federal grant for 4 years. So that pushed up their number and essentially pushed up public safety in a bigger way than what we hoped. But given the fact that we did take the federal money for 4 years, obviously now we have to pay for it. So that's a one-time hit this year, and then it'll be built into the budget going forward. But other than that, we did a pretty good job, I think, looking at and keeping numbers where we want to be. And with a number of departments coming in under that number as well. So, and coming in either at that number or under that number. So I was really pleased to see that. So I'll save my fire and brimstone and all that stuff that goes with that until we get into the budget process. But I'd like to hear from you all what works best for you. Do you want to meet next week's special meeting, or wait for 2 weeks? It's up to you. Jim?
Yeah, anybody's thoughts on that? I personally don't have a problem doing it next Tuesday, but what does the rest of the board feel?
Next Tuesday's fine with me.
Yeah, works for me.
I'm
Leah?
okay.
That's what the group wants. We can add a meeting.
Sorry to do that to you. I don't like to add meetings either. So, but I think it's probably best to do it this way and get it out of the way, and then the others can go forward with their review process as well.
Yeah, I think so long as we're just focused, on the budget. Now, did everybody was able to go into that new system up at
Yep.
Right? Did everybody go on board with the
Well, I know some people have. I'm not sure everybody has, but I know that the new online process is operational now. And if anybody needs help with that, Marie Almodova can help you with that. She's done a fabulous job with the budget this year in terms of putting the detail. There's more detail in this budget than you've probably ever seen before, in terms of, she's done comparabilities to the regional towns to see where we line up, and it answers a lot of questions before the process even starts. So I think it's a really, really well put together document, and I think you're going to enjoy reading it. And even in a summary fashion, the way she's pulled it together is very helpful. So I think you're going to find this to be a really good document.
The only thing I noticed when I went in there, and maybe I'm missing it because maybe I just don't know how to navigate the system.
Yeah.
I could see the 22 budget, but normally when we have a book, and I hope we're still going to get an actual.
Yes, you are going to get a book, and you are going to, but we're not going to do a lot of books this year. We're going to do online for a lot of things. But I think the books that she's putting together are really well put together. I mean, they're really good summarized documents.
The biggest challenge I had was I could only see 22. I couldn't see it compared back year over year.
Okay.
So I
Yeah,
think
you'll see
we need
that.
access to that view to be able to see that in order to really comprehensively look at it.
You will see that in the version that you're going to get tomorrow. So you'll be able to give that comparison. Okay.
So are you saying we're going to get the books tomorrow? Or
Yes, you'll actually get the books tomorrow, and you'll also get an online version as well. You'll get both.
So we're stopping at town hall to grab those? Is that?
Either that, if you want, we can drop it to you, or if you want to stop by and get it tomorrow. Either way, but let us call you just to make sure it's ready for you first before you do that.
Okay.
Okay.
So that'll give us the information we need for next Tuesday.
That's correct. Yeah, I want to get it to you as soon as I can.
Christina, did you have your hand up?
The budget books will be ready afternoon tomorrow for a pickup time. And Marie, if she hasn't already, she'll be emailing the online version, the PDF to you tonight or tomorrow morning, first thing.
Okay. So I literally just got something a few minutes ago, so that's going to change the pension estimate. So we may want to make that change before we give it to you, because it does change the bottom line. So I think in a positive direction. So that's a good thing.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I think as long as we had them by like Friday, don't feel the rush is my opinion. If there's
Okay.
numbers coming in, I don't think it makes a difference tomorrow versus Friday versus,
Sure.
give us the weekend to look at it.
Yeah, just let us know when the updated version is so we can come pick up the books.
yeah, we'll get the word out to you as soon as we have. Okay.
We can get the calendar in there too. I know it was sent out a while
Yes.
ago, but it just ends up being a little buried in email.
So the calendar, we just altered the calendar, of course, based upon the fact that I was out for 2 weeks, and so I couldn't get. So we went off the estimate a little bit. So we're gonna provide you with an updated calendar on as well. Okay.
Good.
Just it's annual report time as well. So you just so Mr. Chairman, you have the responsibility and of pulling together a report on behalf of the board. Christina's working on that this year and pulling it together as she has done and doing a really fabulous job of doing that. So, we're really, it's going to be a little bit different this year. She's really delved into this both feet, and so we're gonna have I think a pretty nice document to have for you. And then
Christina, I just want you to know, I have your outline here in front of me.
there you go.
Those committee chairs, I think I'm sure I'm not the only one that got this little reminder of what I need to do. Thank you.
And all the tools are right there for you. So just a couple things. As I mentioned earlier, the vaccinations are ongoing up at Gillette. And as soon as we have more information about who's going to be done next, we'll be getting that to people and keeping everybody up informed about that as best we can. Obviously, the goal is to try and get as many people vaccinated as soon as possible. We have a new president being sworn in tomorrow. And he's claiming that within his first 100 days, he wants 100 million people vaccinated. So that means that the wheels will start turning a lot faster, I think, and we'll start to see that process move at a much faster clip than we're seeing up to this point. Let me see. In this week, the MMA annual meeting is going to be occurring on Thursday and Friday of this week, and that's going to be a virtual meeting as well. I don't know if anybody here has decided to join or sign up, but if you want to be part of that, you certainly can. We can still sign you up for that if you're interested. But it is Thursday and Friday this week if you're interested in participating. It's all online, and they'll send you all the connections and to participate in that if you'd like. And with that, I think that's all I have for now.
One more thing, if you go over, Bill, the town meeting warrant.
Yeah, so the town meeting warrant, so how that works is that what we did was, and I just was reading the document again just to remind myself about how this actually works. And so what we did was we put in a deadline for all the departments to give an indication to us if they're going to have an article for town meeting, and that was by January 15th. The absolute deadline, though, for the annual town meeting, which is set by bylaw, is actually February 15th. So the reason we did January 15th for that was so we would have an idea as to how many articles we're looking at, and it also would get them to focus on getting their language finalized before that would be in before the 15th. So anybody who's still contemplating to put something in, they need to get that to us as soon as possible. We did have the deadline of the 15th of last week, but that was really for operating departments to make sure if anybody had anything they want to submit. Now, that's the deadline for the annual is set by bylaw, but we do have to do a special as well within the annual because we have two. We didn't do a special in the fall this year, so we're going to do a special within the annual. And that's really because the reason why we have is because we have two contracts that need to be funded in this fiscal year, and that is the police contract and the steelworkers contracts. So we need to have. So there'll be an article or three articles, I think, one for the A unit, B unit, and the police contract to be funded for this fiscal year for the special. So the board will need to open that warrant. I'm going to recommend you wait till February, probably first meeting in February before you take that up, and then you can set a 2-week period to close it. It's typically the time that you do that, but that's a board has to set both the opening and the closing dates for that. That's your prerogative to set how you want to do that. All right, so that's how that works.
So is the warrant open or closed? Sorry, was it?
So the warrant is technically open as of this moment until the 15th of February.
Okay.
It's technically open, but we set the deadline internally for all our departments to get stuff in by the 15th. So we at least have a placeholder and know where people are with how many articles we would have. Right now, we have about 20 articles.
And
for
we'll
town
see
meeting.
that on the 2nd, you're saying?
Yes, you'll give you that on the 2nd. We'll give you a preliminary indication on the 5th, on the 2nd, but your final action doesn't occur until actually the 15th of February. Okay, so just so you're aware of that. All right.
Which we meet the day after that, so we don't have to do
Yeah.
anything. That'll just automatically close.
Yes, it automatically closes by bylaw for the annual. Okay. Any further questions about that? Okay, I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Yes, Christine.
Bill, the list of
Oh.
donations.
I apologize. Thank you. That's still something I'm getting used to, is the list of donations. Thank you, Christina. So I actually have a number of donations that were given primarily on the honor of Dave Gaffney, the veteran and the former barber in the center of town who passed recently. I have two non-related Dave Gaffney donations. One is for the Boyden Library, $25 and that's from Jared Clement as a donation. I'll read all of these and just let you know, and then I don't know if you want to just so you're aware, but I've approved all of these. The COA lockbox is and that's for $35 anonymous donation. And this is a veteran's donation from Virginia Coppola for $25 for in memory of Dave Gaffney. $25 veterans donation from Janet Haynes in memory of Dave Gaffney. All these are in memory of Dave Gaffney. So Glenn and Nora Gestus donation for $25. Jeffrey and Christina Shrewery, $40 for the veterans. Kathleen and Peter Arico, $50 donation from the veterans. Lauren and Robert Bubinek, donation to the veterans, $50. Nancy and James Buckley, $50 donation. Again, all these are in memory of Dave Gaffney. Judy and Joel Bullard, $50 donation for the veterans. Edmund Ferrara, $50 donation to the veterans. Karen and Robert Kavjijian, donation, $50 to the veterans. $50 donation from Robert and Patricia Murphy. $50 donation from Donna and Robert Ronald Smith. And $100 donation from Christine and Robert Delaney. $100 donation from Lawrence W. Foster. And $100 Better Days Are Coming, LLC, all in memory of Dave Gaffney. So thank you to everyone who made those donations. We certainly greatly appreciate it. I know the family is very grateful as well. Thank you all for making those donations to the town. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Any selectmen's update? Oh, seeing none. Oh, Steph, you're muted. You're muted. There you go.
All right, thanks. I just want to just recognize the passing of Patty Noonan. You know, she is the sister of 3 town employees, Deb Giardino, Rich Noonan, and Ed Noonan. And she was a pretty incredible woman. And obviously our thoughts and prayers go out to the Noonan Giardino extended family. You know, Patty went through a lot, and they're just wanted to make some recognition, just our thoughts and prayers are out to their family.
Thank you for doing that, Stephanie. I appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
Thank
You're welcome.
Stephanie. All right, Stephanie, you've got a list of action
All
items.
right, here we go. All right. Motion to accept with gratitude a $480 donation from Friends of Foxborough Seniors for Tai Chi for October and November.
Second.
All right, roll call vote.
Chris, yes.
Stephanie, yes.
Mark, yes.
Ed, yes.
Leah, yes.
Okay.
Motion to approve tuition reimbursement for Detective Mark Ronenberger for $1,326.
Second,
Yeah, I should have said, any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Chris, yes.
Stephanie, yes.
Mark, yes.
Ed, yes.
Leah, yes.
Motion to approve tuition reimbursement for Officer Charles Gallagher for $2,550.
Second,
Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Chris, yes.
Stephanie, yes.
Mark, yes.
Ed, yes.
Leah, yes.
Motion to accept with gratitude $150 donation from Francis and Marilyn Lyons in memory of David Gaffey.
Second,
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Chris, yes.
Stephanie, yes.
Mark, yes.
Ed, yes.
Leah, yes.
Motion to accept with gratitude $200 donation from Niles and Patricia Bolgen in memory of David Gaffey.
Second,
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Chris, yes.
Stephanie, yes.
Mark, yes.
Ed, yes.
Leah, yes.
Motion to accept with gratitude $200 donation from Walpole Outdoors LLC in memory of David Gaffey.
Second,
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Chris, yes.
Stephanie, yes.
Mark, yes.
Ed, yes.
Leah, yes.
Motion to accept with gratitude $150 donation from Russell Clark in memory of David Gaffey.
Second,
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Chris, yes.
Stephanie, yes.
Mark, yes.
Ed, yes.
Leah, yes.
Motion to approve the December 15th, 2020 minutes.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I had one under the discussion about the firefighter, the mechanic and stuff. When I said, trying to find it right now, right towards the very beginning, the 7:30 meeting on the fire department, my first comment, it says, right now, this individual, this a firefighter paramedic, there should be an is in there, and I take away one of the is's. I think it should read, right now, is this individual a firefighter paramedic or mechanic?
Okay, updated.
Thank you.
Thank you. Roll call.
Chris, yes.
Stephanie, yes.
Mark, yes.
Ed, yes.
Leah, yes.
Before we go to the last point, I think the meeting went well, everybody. We didn't have any glitches. Worked out perfect. Christina, you taught us all well. Thank you, everybody. And it looks like this is the way we'll have to do it for the next few meetings anyway. Thank you, everybody.
Have a good night.
But go ahead, Steph.
Motion to adjourn.
All
Second.
right, roll call.
Chris, yes.
Stephanie, yes.
Mark, yes.
Ed, yes.
Leah, yes.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.